Hey, you are listening to the Six Figure Photography Podcast with Ben Hartley and Noella Andres. Each week, we bring you a new episode to help you grow your business by winning more bookings, maximizing your profits, and breaking through your limiting beliefs. Today, we're really going to talk about building your business. We're going to talk about scaling your business. What does that even look like to scale your business? Many of us are solopreneurs, and that doesn't have to stop you. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the photography industry. She's someone who isn't afraid of to challenge the traditional ideas of success. We're talking about Jamie Richens Findlay. She's a business strategist, speaker, founder of the Landlocked Mermaid and Evolve workshops with 20 years of experience in photography, hosting incredible photography events. Jamie has she's dedicated her career to helping photographers scale to six figures and beyond without losing their minds in their process. She's helped thousands of creatives gain business clarity, build profitable pricing strategies, and foster real community, all while avoiding burnout and staying true to what lights them up. Because for Jamie, success is not just about the money. If you wanted to make more money, there's so many other ways to make shit tons of money. It's not about the money. It's about building a business and life that you genuinely love. In this episode, we are diving into what scaling really means. Beyond the pressure of more clients, more offers, more hustle, what else? Jamie's going to help us to unpack how creatives can clean up their business processes, charge their worth, grow profitably, not just bigger, but better. So if you are a photographer wondering if you have to expand into photography education, making your own presets, whatever it is, or maybe you're simply feeling stretched too thin under the pursuit of more, this episode is going to be like a breath of fresh air. There we go. Let's do it. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Ben.
Did I say your name right?
You did.
Okay.
You did. And it's funny because I'm like in the process of dropping the Findlay because I went through a divorce 4 years ago, but it's like everybody still knows me as Jamie Findlay.
It's a tricky
one.
So
we always have to add in there Jamie Richens Findlay. So you killed it. You did great.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. And
thanks for having me.
So I'm like, I'm kind of the third wheel here, girls. That's what it feels like. I hopped onto the listeners. I hopped into the pre-show, and these two are it turns out best friends. Noella, walk me through this.
Jamie and I actually met. I think we figured out it was 5 years ago, right?
Yes, it was right
before COVID.
Yeah, it was right after my San Francisco event, so almost exactly 5 years ago.
Yeah, and funny enough, we actually just met in person though for the first time last March at WPPI, and it was this whole meet cute moment where we had been like best friends for like 4 years leading up to this, and they're walking down the aisle. She's coming from one side, I'm coming from the other side. We have an audience who knows we've never actually met in person. Anyways, it was so good, and we've been inseparable since. We've been kind of all over the US together now. But Jamie, tell us a little bit about you. I want you to introduce yourself for those of you who don't know you as well as I do.
Well, Ben killed it. I mean, that made me feel very uncomfortable to hear anything about myself.
That is my goal. Make people feel uncomfortable.
It made me feel very uncomfortable. So I've been a business strategy coach and consultant for nearly 2 decades. I've been an editorial photographer for brands and couples worldwide, founder of Evolve workshops, owner of a creative studio here in my hometown. Been in this realm for a really long time. And Noella and I met 5 years ago when I was looking for additional help with Evolve. And then her and I just connected, fell in love. And then here we are now.
We're talking scale.
Yeah.
We're talking scale. Yeah.
Where have you seen this in your own life? Like, where have you chosen to scale for your own businesses?
Where have I chosen to scale? I think a lot of scaling for me in years past was unintentional, which is why I think it's a topic I tend to speak on quite a bit. I think a lot of us scale unintentionally, right? One of the biggest examples of that was well, I'll give you two. One was my clothing company, was one of the first large companies that I ever built. And
Hold
I
on,
started,
record scratch.
yeah,
I missed. Did I miss the clothing
I didn't
company
put it
thing?
in, I didn't put it in my bio.
I just had to draw attention. Like, did I skip that or?
No, you did not. I didn't put it in my bio, but I went to school for design and manufacturing.
Okay.
And so I started a clothing company. I ran that for 10 years before I sold it. But it started very simple. We bought designer jeans out of China, knock off True Religions and all the things. We would have jean parties. And then from there, it became this little notebook of products. And I would write small, medium, large, whatever came in the bundle. And I would write the name next to it. Ben bought this. I started really small. And as it continued to grow and evolve into we were doing expos, and I had 42 girls selling for me out of trailers, and we had 2 brick and mortar stores. And it was just all this, what I thought was a natural evolution to that business. And it actually got to the point where it burned me out. Like, it was no longer in alignment with something that was even exciting for me. It was so much maintenance, never ending to-do lists. And so that was probably the first area that I was like, okay, none of this was really intentional. It was the natural progression of it. I saw the same thing happen with Evolve. When I started Evolve, I had come from selling my clothing company into shooting editorial photography to having a studio. And I would put together these beautiful styled shoots for people to come in, because fashion was my love. And they would come in, none of them knew how to run their business. So I'd start teaching them. Then I start doing small workshops. Then I start doing destination workshops. And, it just continued to, evolve, quote, evolve into large multi-hundred person conferences. And it was kind of the same thing. COVID took me back and like, is this intentional decisions, or am I just following what I think the expectation is of my business? And somewhere in my mind, if I didn't do that, I was somehow failing or not living up to my potential. And so having those two very big experiences has really taught me there's a huge misconception about the natural progression of business owners. And we don't talk about it enough, because scaling is not for everybody. And scaling can mean 2 totally different things. So that's what we're going to dive into, I think.
So how would you suggest, so scaling could mean 2 different things. What are those 2 different things for you?
Well, I think let's start with so there's a natural misconception, right? If you are a business owner or a photographer, specifically a photographer, you don't have to do anything other than just be a successful photographer. Like, you can literally just do one thing. You can find success in it. You don't have to be a photographer, then a coach, then do events, then do a podcast, then run a studio, then do styled shows. You can literally just focus solely on building a really strong photography business, and that's it. And so I think that's why I know my thinking is contrary to what a lot of other people think, which is why I challenge my coaching clients of like, why do you want to do destinations? Why do you want to educate? Like, and I'm using that example in scaling as like adding a new branch of your business. That's the one side, right? People think scaling is adding a new branch to your business for additional revenue, but you can literally just scale and create a business that's out of alignment, focus on quantity, pricing, increasing your passion, making sure your bottom line is more clear, making sure your direction is more intentional. So you can grow a successful business and scale without taking on additional projects.
And can we talk practically about that? Like what would that look like? What are some examples of some very practical things, systems, processes, whatever that is? I'm not sure for you, for scaling to take place while staying within, like, we'll say staying in your lane, right? Like, so for myself, wedding photography, maybe we could use that as an example. But like, how would one go about doing that in an effective way?
How to scale your business effectively or clean it up. I think we see it all the time. Like, and at this point in my business, and I'm sure in both of yours, like, I've led dozens and dozens of events. I've helped thousands of photographers, and I would guess 80% of them, when I have conversations with them, have no business plan of any sort. Like, they're relying 100% off of momentum and hoping that it continues. That's how most creatives go into business. They find this love for the art. They start creating, they tell their friends who tell a few friends, all of a sudden they start competitive pricing, they start charging, they ride this wave. And then 2 years later, they come out of it with no continuation plan in place. So, for anybody who is in that place, really, it's like having the knowledge of your business needs to be focused on extending the lifeline of your business. You have to have strategic plans in place. You have to have processes that keep the continual revenue going on. Like without a roadmap or even a foundational process, like your business will die. So, and we already know creatives, like their brains don't work that way. They don't naturally operate in a way to solve those problems. So as far as like cleaning up, really it just comes down to like practically knowing what it is that you're going to do, having clarity on what you are chasing and why you're chasing it. I think the other example of that kind of jumped into my mind is like, and I use this as a rule of thumb all the time, is you can't jump from A to B unless A is running on its own, right? And so I think that's a big indicator if you're talking about scaling, or what you should do is what you're doing already effective enough for you to walk away and put your time and effort and focus into something else. And if it's not, then you do not need to be doing that yet. That doesn't mean forever, but yet.
You mentioned something that made me think of one of my favorite topics to talk about. I feel like I talk about the Eisenhower matrix all the time on this show.
You have brought it up.
I love talking about the Eisenhower matrix because it's very practical, and I think it's something that photographers struggle with, because we always have urgent but not important things on our table. So the Eisenhower matrix has kind of like two axes, and we've got not important and important, and we've got urgent and not urgent. And the thing that you just described, Jamie, which is like to actually create a plan, like a vision of something worth having, like a business that you want to grow, and the plan to actually do it. That is something that is so important, but it is so not urgent.
Not urgent. Yeah.
And there are so many things that are consuming, like when a photographer wakes up who really wants to be a phenomenal business, they wake up and they have all of these urgent things. Some of them may be important, right? They need to edit their galleries, they need to deliver images. Some are important, but then there's all these urgent things in the inbox and DMs and notifications, bloop, 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 bloop. Everything is urgent, right? And so we never get around to doing these very important, not urgent things. And I'm curious how you help to take your clients through this process of like, okay, we've got to slow down in order for us to speed up.
Yeah. Well, the way that you do it is not easy. Not everybody listens, right? And I call it, I like what you said. I haven't actually heard that term. I call them MMAs, like money making activities, of prioritizing, like, what is it that you need to do that's actually going to make you money? That's where most of your focus should be. And I think that we get caught in a lot of those like automated systems of checking the emails and doing the text and doing the things, the editing. I mean, when I was shooting full time, I would spend a whole day editing and do nothing that actually made me more money. I just took care of everything that was already on my plate. So it's not easy because they don't listen, but it is something that I think if it's regurgitated enough from leadership or people who are coming from a place of knowing, we have to teach them that they have to slow down and lay the foundations, or they're not going to be in business for 2 more years. I mean, and that's the reality. I don't have an answer to how we make them listen.
You threaten. I heard you threaten.
Yeah, I do. I threaten. I have a whole.
I don't want to mess with her.
You don't. You do it or you're in trouble. But I mean, there has to be a way in conveying our message to them as educators of like, I know that you're having fun. I know that these are the things that are focused. Like, you have to put on horse blinders at some time. Like, you have to be able to focus on the things that are going to keep you in business. Again, I don't have an answer for you, but that's the reality. If you don't focus on the things that are less exciting, you're not going to have a business to run in 2 years.
You know, and I want to say something about that, because I think often photographers in particular, they don't treat their business like a business, right? Generally, if I was to start another business, I have to go to the bank and I'm going to ask for money. What do they ask for? They immediately ask for a business plan. They want to know what my business plan is. They want to know who my clients are. They want to know what my marketing strategy is, what my vision statement is. Where do I see my business in 5 years? And that's what I think is a big missing factor for photographers, is that foundational piece that every other business owner requires. But as creatives, we just don't even think about it. We immediately start a Facebook page or an Instagram account, and that's it.
Yeah, it's true. Creatives also tend to like chase shiny objects, you know, and so they are easily distracted by the things that are like, oh, that looks more fun. Oh, Ben's doing that. Oh, Noella's doing that. Oh, Jamie went here, you know, and so it really does come down to like the intention of your business and being clear on it, and being able to like have boundaries and respect enough for yourself and your business to stick with it, which is hard. right? I have ADHD. I get hyperfixated on all sorts of things. And Noella knows better than anybody. I love to dream. But the reality is you have to have like a very solid why in order to run a sustainable business. You have to have a clear plan of action. You have to have a roadmap, or and you have to have fun in that roadmap. But if you don't do those things, you're, again, not going to be in business in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially I think because a lot of people we get distracted very easily. And yet, like you said, start chasing the next shiny object. And then all of a sudden now we have nothing that's actually scaled and sustainable. Jamie, if somebody came up to you and they asked you for advice, what would you tell a business owner, or what the big difference is between true growth in their business and just like kind of adding more and more and more to their plate?
True growth in their business. Well, I think it really comes down to like your alignment with what it is that you want to do. I think for me, a good example of this is like, again, following the unintentional growth or expectations. Like, for you to know if it's true or not, you have to be able to really sit with yourself. And so an example of this is like one of my other best friends was assisting me with Evolve for a few years, the first few years. And we ended up splitting ways. And the reason we split ways is because we had to do exactly what you're asking. She was following the natural progression of what Jamie was wanting to do with Evolve and what I was creating. And she was keeping up with the momentum of that. What happened when we sat down and created like an actual safe space to go over her numbers and what she needed personally and what her why was the reality for her was an extra $1,000 a month was what would make her happy. More time at home made her happy. 4 hours a week max of work made her happy. Those things were not in alignment with what we were chasing. And so sometimes you have to have those hard reality checks of like, okay, what I say I'm doing and what I'm going towards is not really truly what makes sense for what I'm trying to do over here in my personal life. And a lot of you guys in the Enneagram, a lot of creatives are 3s, 8s, 7s, right? We move with the shiny objects. We get excited. We're really focused on accomplishments and we get hyper fixated on those things. But really, it's such a small part of our life, small part of our business. So it does go back to like that intention of like, what am I even doing this for? Where am I going? And why am I doing that? Like clarity really is key to everything. And it's hard to do sometimes.
So I think that piggybacking off of this kind of introduction to that concept, I think for the photographers listening, their pressure comes often, I think, to scale it potentially in ways that don't actually end up aligning with their vision. I think there is a expectation, pressure externally that to grow your business as a photographer. I think you kind of went through this progression, right? It's like, well, once I'm successful, then I should host style shoots, and then I should start mentoring immediately, and then I should step into further education, make a course or a podcast, and maybe those things are right. And maybe they're not. My question is like, how could a photographer decide? How could they maybe settle in on that and to consider if this is the right path for them or just something that they feel like they ought to do, they should do?
I mean, sometimes you're not going to know till you try it. And I don't think there's anything wrong in trying it. If there's decisions that we make that are good for the bottom line of our business that should just be made. And there's decisions that we make that are good for inspiring us and continuing to drive us. Like maybe hosting style shoots is something that elevates your own personal brand. So in the long run, you charge more and you're able to attract more clients. It might just be a passion project. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to anything. I think the biggest thing when it comes to scaling is just maintaining that you're not losing the income that you need to survive. That's the thing that I think happens the most. And then people struggle and they give up on everything. So go chase whatever you want. Try it. If you want to mentor, do some A to B testing, see if the audience is interested in it, see if you even like it. I'm not telling people to not try things, but I also just think like your main focus needs to be on where your source of income is coming and that a system is super effective before you're moving your time and attention to other things. But
so that's exactly like my next question is that, do you find one of the most common mistakes that photographers make when they are trying to scale too fast is they haven't actually established that solid income and that solid financials to begin with?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the reality is like you're going to make way more money focusing on one thing well then 5 things you're half-assing. And so, you know, really though, you know this, we talk about this all the time as friends and coaches. Like the thing is when people come in and they start talking about their business, even people to the level of Ben, you and I have both seen it a million times, Noella, they come in and they don't actually have foundational processes in place. They don't have the SEO. They don't have the email marketing. They don't have anything to keep their business sustainable. They're missing key components because they're just rushing through what is exciting to them. So I think you're right on that. I think that they get distracted instead of focusing on that. And again, I'm all for go try anything, do anything that's inspiring, go have fun. Like we're in a creative industry. Go do things that like, you know, make your heart leap. But the bottom line is, and I think for Ben's podcast and Ben's education, everything I've ever seen him put out there is like, we want people to stay in business. We want you to be successful. We want you to continue making money. And so I'm not trying to like shit on your idea. I'm just saying, make sure you have a clear direction and plan in place and your business is making and driving revenue before you go do something else that's going to lessen your revenue. And that's a lesson that I had to learn the hard way being a single mom. And I think that creates more of an awareness when it's a hobby versus that's how you feed your children. But I can't chase every shiny object. I can't do everything that I have as an idea to scale today. You know, but that doesn't mean those ideas have to go away. I have to focus on what actually moves the needle and create some consistency. Business isn't always fun, but the idea is to make money, right? And to stay in business.
I want to kind of speak for the photographers who are listening today they're just wanting to stay in the photography. They're wanting to grow their business. They're wanting to get more clients, make more money, and really just to stay within the photography space. Wedding photographer wants to stay in weddings. Family photographer wants to stay in families. They're not really interested in branching out into new niches or education or whatever it is. And so very practically, you know, for those people who are listening that are just loving their craft, they're loving photography, and they're just figuring out how can I make this work better for my family, work better financially and bring in more income? You know, what are maybe some practical next steps that they could take to scale within their business? Again, without having to feel like they have to expand outward. And I know it's a pretty broad question, you know, or maybe it's a specific question to a whole lot of broad application, but are there maybe a series of checks and balances, whatever, just like to consider like, okay, we've got this, we got this, we got this. And if not, is there a hierarchy for what needs to take place?
Well, I mean, I have 2 answers to that. I think the one that I'll cover first, I think if you're just looking for like checks and balances of what do they need in place to stay in business, right? The simplistic answer is a website with SEO, that you're using content that you're repurposing, that you have that kind of social credibility out there. That's like number one. A lot of them don't even have websites. Do you have an email marketing that you can continue to reach your clients? Like some of those foundational things I would say are number one. If all they want to do as a photographer, go through a checklist of making sure the foundational elements of your business exist. If they're trying to find growth within photography, I mean, it's really a simple math problem. It's like they can either increase their prices or increase their volume, right? And so taking a look at their numbers and their area that they're in and the areas that they're trying to scale in is going to give them more success within that space. It's either price increase or volume increase. And those 2 things are really all they need to focus on to keep their business going. You provide tools all the time, Ben, for how to increase their traffic, how to increase the awareness for their business, you know, but those things don't work if they don't have a foundation for people to go back and find them, correct? Like they can't just be posting on Instagram once a week and hope somebody's going to find them. They need the web page in place. They need to have an email marketing in place. They need to have ways that they can utilize the tools that you're teaching them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Maybe I'm wrong.
reevaluating the sales funnel. It's like reevaluating the sales funnel, basically, right? Like how are they going to utilize that sales funnel best for their business, get the leads in to the funnel, and then every step of the way, and what that looks like. Ben, do you have your buzzer ready? Because I want to add something to this.
I always got the buzzer ready. You think I don't have the buzzer ready?
What's a buzzer? What's the buzzer?
Okay, well, I'm gonna give a little shout out to Freedom Print Lab because I feel like that is. But this is the perfect Freedom little plugin because I think that one of the ways you can increase your profit, right, is by looking at IPS and different sales, the way that you're handling your packages. And maybe it is as simple as adding, albums and prints and wall art to your offerings.
Yeah, and that goes into like the third way to increase your business profitability is, okay, so yes, increase prices, increase volume, or sell additional product or service to an existing client, like a second, third, maybe you're a wedding photographer and you start doing rehearsal dinners or albums. And that's a big one, man. Print product. I mean, with our... Usually, I'd have to go back through all the numbers. I don't know if there was a year since we introduced print into our business that we didn't make $100,000 in profit on print product alone. I mean, and people are just, what? Yes, print, Freedom Print Labs. It's like, go check them out. Findlay, anytime I talk about companies that I love and adore. Oops, that's a different one. Oh shit! Oh, no, hold on. My buzzer just went off.
I'm kind of deeply upset it wasn't Taylor Swift this time.
I kind of want to see like what your console looks like next to you and how it's marked that you can.
All the buttons.
All the things.
I fat fingered it and just started pressing them all.
Yeah. But you're right, adding products, print. I mean, we're all huge fans of Freedom. I love the guys that run Freedom. And one of the things too that's really intimidating, like to piggyback off what Noella said, it doesn't have to be in-person sales. There's a lot of people out there and a lot of companies out there that'll help you with digital IPS. Would that even be IPS if it's in-person sales?
Digital DPS.
DPS. Digital
it's a print
sales
thing, but not in that way. Dots per square inch.
I don't know what the term is, but I mean, if it's intimidating, there are ways that you can incorporate that in your business. And I totally agree with Ben. Like there's a good chunk of my revenue that come off people just printing their stuff. And Pixie Set has a way that, I mean, you can do your little buzzer for Pixie Set and all these other companies that we love, like that make it super easy.
I don't use Pixie Set. I don't use.
We use Sprout Studio, guys.
Here we go. Sprout Studio.
Sprout Studios.
Companies I don't use, I give the want to.
Well, any of those companies that simplify your ability to sell prints, and Sprout is phenomenal also. So there are things out there that don't require you to recreate the wheel to go do them. So that's a really good point.
I'm just laughing at all
cut
of
it
that
out.
exchange.
Just
there's no all of that is staying. 100%. I keep it all. I am absolutely keeping it all. That's so good.
I'm going to keep things under the belt then, knowing this.
Okay, so if someone's listening, they're realizing maybe like, hey, I think I've maybe they're like in your shoes, like you were in, where you build something and it kind of gets out of control, maybe. Or maybe you're building it and you start to realize like this isn't actually what's making me happy, right? Like what do you tell someone who's in that situation of realization of like, oh no, I think I built the engine and it now has more control over me. Like it's running the show here and I don't like this.
I mean, that's a whole other topic about mindset because that happens. I mean, you have to step back and really breathe and reflect on what really makes you happy and what's really making you fulfilled. But that's different for everybody, like quiet time, walking, journaling, like whatever it is. But at some point we have to face ourselves. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do is to face ourselves versus the expectations that we put around ourselves. So it's not easy to walk away from something. Selling my company was one of the hardest things I ever did with my clothing company. I felt a lot of shame over the fact that I felt like I could not maintain the growth that was there. And it was just emotionally. I was a mom of 4 kids. It was not in alignment with how I wanted to live my life. I did not want to be at the packaging plant all the time, monitoring everything that was coming and going. So it's hard. Sometimes it can create some shame and some sadness when we let something go. But in the long run, that was a better decision for me. I was able to do things that made me happier. As a better mom, I started Evolve. I chose other things that were in alignment. And again, I did the same thing in Evolve. It took me twice to learn learn the same lesson. But we have to reconnect with the reason we start doing things in the first place. And really, the bottom line is we're in a creative thing. We're in a creative industry. Everybody who's listening, if they're a photographer, they did this for the love of the art, right? And we're trying to give them tools and resources to benefit their business. They just have to go back to that emotional aspect that got them started in the first place of like, okay, well, where do I want to go with this? And what am I doing that maybe is hurting me emotionally, that is no longer benefiting me in the long run?
I will say too, like even just having a really great business coach, or in our case, best friend, who sometimes is not afraid to just say like, get your shit together and get focused. Is super important too. Just having like a third party that's gonna call you out when they see that you're doing things that they know is not making you happy. What Jamie, have you personally done to stay grounded and just like checking in with yourself? Is this something that you do regularly, just making sure that your business growth is really aligned with your business, or your vision, I should say?
Like I said, I have to do it on a regular basis because I have to keep that ADHD at bay. So I can get hyper fixated on things. Like I'm a notorious visionary. So the reason I teach these things is because, and I hark on these things because I've learned them the hard way. I've done them myself. And I continuously am having to relearn that. So for bottom line, like I said, for me, it is going back to what my why is, which for me is being a single mom, making sure that my MMAs are the time that I'm getting focused. I can fill notebooks with dreams, but I have to step back and I have to assess regularly, like, when is it time to do that dream? And I've become very good, Noella knows this, with my time boundaries. Like I'm not one to have FOMO. I will say no if it doesn't align with what I'm doing, if it's not going to benefit my business or my kids. So for me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, every time it's going back to the basics. Like what's already working? How can I make it more efficient? Am I charging what I'm worth? Can I streamline any part of this workflow? And that could be automating your email, your CRMs, managing your leads, deleting tasks. Like I do that on a regular basis. Like how can I free up more time instead of just chasing new offers or new clients, but like optimizing what I already have in place for profitability? And I do that regularly, refine my client experience, raise my prices when it makes sense, just making sure I'm doing things in a way that doesn't drain my energy. And one of the easiest ways to do it, we didn't touch on it, and I don't know if you teach on this, Ben, but I would say like one of the ways to easiest way to streamline your process is like evaluating your client journey and what is being put out there and what are you in control of. Like most of the time from start to finish, that is like one of the biggest reasons people are struggling in their business, in their workflow, is they don't have the client journey nailed down. And that's a really easy way to go back and say like, okay, if I just need to simplify my business, how clear is the message? And then build off that. Again, like focus on refining what makes things profitable.
I want to end on a really practical, maybe one takeaway. Like if we could just give the listeners one thing, if they were driving, they'd pull over the side of the road right now, get out that notebook, pull out their phone and the notes app and write down like this, the one thing I'm going to do when I get home. Okay. When you get back from walking the dog, whatever it is, make sure you clean up their poop. They're really feeling overwhelmed, right? What's the best place to start when we have to almost maybe do a bit of a reset here? We've got to reevaluate a business plan, or maybe create a business plan to begin with. What's maybe one of the first things that they should do to start when looking at that?
I would say it's what we just said. Focus on refining and optimizing what you already have before you add more to your plate. So clarity is king in everything, in relationships and communication and in business. So I would say if you are confused and you are overwhelmed, the first thing you need to do is you need to take out a notebook and you need to write down what it is you're even doing, what it is that you want to be doing, and see if those two things are in alignment. And then from there, you can go in and streamline your process and focus on the services you love. Like growth doesn't always mean doing more. Like often it actually means doing less, but better.
Yeah. And I want to pull out one of the things
all they take from that.
One of the things that you had said that I think is worth pulling out is evaluate what is working really well in your business and what isn't. I think that was an impactful thing that I heard out of that.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm like, if all they do is hear one thing, it's like growth doesn't mean more. It's usually less. Like I just feel like that needs to be on repeat.
Jamie, where can people find you on the internet?
So they can find me two different places. I would say they can go to thelandlockedmermaid.com. They can go to jamierichens.com, and they can find the Landlocked Mermaid on Instagram. There's resources and tools and quizzes and freebies and things that will help them with the things that we've been talking about. happy to talk to anybody anytime. Noella knows that. I
Also-
love this community.
Jamie, also
What?
the next Evolve Workshops event.
Yes, they can
not
also- they can
announced
also-
yet, but that's where they can see you in person.
If you want to hang out with Noella and I, one of the exciting things we didn't touch on, and I hope this is okay, Ben, is
Absolutely. Great.
so having done Evolve for 10 years and that being my baby and falling in love with Noella and it became something she loved, we have decided to partner. And so she is a part of Evolve as an owner. And we are taking time to like completely rebuild this company the way that we want it. And we're putting some really fun things in place and like a whole new fresh rebrand. And so Noella and I together have some really cool things coming up for you guys that we hope you'll join
And
us
maybe, Ben, we can get you at the next Evolve Workshops.
would love
Yeah, if you
to
need,
have
if you need a
Ben
keynote, let me know.
Yeah. You're a great
Ben,
keynote.
why
I've
do you
heard it.
think I've been bugging you about this for so long?
I'm down. I'm down. That sounds awesome. Yeah, where do you normally hold the Evolve workshops at?
All over the world. So
Yeah.
for the first 7 years, we were doing 8 to 10 events all over the world.
Hmm.
Really, since COVID, we've pivoted to like one large event US and one international. Noella and I think are feeling pretty in alignment with maintaining that kind of vibe. So you'll see us in the US at least once. Internationally, you can travel with us. And like I said, we've got some other fun ideas in place too. So
Cool. Dig it. I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie. It's been fun seeing you in this format. But I know that the audience here is just going to love what you had to say. So we really, really appreciate you being here. And you guys check out Jamie.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Love
much,
you guys.
Jamie.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. Hey, podcast listeners, thank you. Go work on that business plan. Until next week, keep showing up.
And be kind to yourself.